In the Old Testament reading we heard from the prophet Ezekiel, it tells of God's people scattered, alone and suffering. And it promises that God himself will seek them out and rescue and restore them. As so often in the scriptures, the people are likened to sheep and God as a shepherd. At this time, the people have been scattered, some by exile into Babylon, and others throughout the land of Israel, where they had to scrape together a living as best they could. Ezekiel criticises Israel's leaders, both past and present, for their scandalous and unjust treatment of people, and promises that all things will be made right when the restoration comes. Those who have lived off the fat of the land, lining their pockets and living the high life, whilst at the same time ignoring the plight of the poor, these will be held to account. These will be laid low, whilst the poor and those who have suffered will be raised up. And finally, a descendant of the great King David will become their shepherd, and he will feed them. These are common themes amongst the Old Testament prophets like Isaiah, Amos and Hosea, and Ezekiel is very much in that tradition. I like the prophets because they're straightforward. One of the few things I can remember from the many sermons I listened to as a youngster was the vicar who said, "The prophets are good, straight to the point. They call a spade a bloody shovel." I don't know why I remembered that, but I did. In the New Testament, Jesus himself also often uses this image of sheep and shepherds in his own teaching, culminating perhaps in the great assertion that he is the good shepherd who looks after his sheep and knows them. That gospel reading we heard this morning, a very famous reading, gives us the wonderful image of the Son of Man coming in glory with all his angels to separate people as separating sheep from goats. He will please place the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left. The Son of Man then affirms those on his right hand for their actions towards him in giving him appropriate care. When I was hungry, you gave me food. When thirsty, you gave me drink, etc. You took care of me. You looked after me. Notice that none of these things really are stupendous acts of charity, but the simple neighbourly care one might have for another. They're in many ways the fulfilment of that law to love your neighbour as yourself. But notice too that the sheep are totally unaware of what it is they've been doing. They've no idea that living in this way they've been serving their Lord. They're totally bemused and ask him, "Lord, when was it that we did all these things? Not just for you, but to you." And the stunning answer comes back, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me." And it's in this totally innocent and unobtrusive act of charity that the righteous are to serve God. When we do good deeds to look good or to show off, or to expect reward, or for what we might get out of it, we do no good at all, and our deeds are unacceptable to God. Many years ago, when one of my parishes was doing a new planned giving campaign, the diocesan advisor came and said that he noticed that the more you gave to God, the more you seemed to get back. And I had to question his theology of giving. Because unless we give to God freely, with joy, and as a simple act of gratitude, then we cannot give at all. Our giving is unacceptable. 13th century German theologian and philosopher wrote this: "Some people want to see God with their eyes as they see a cow, and to love him as they love their cow, for the milk and cheese and profit it brings them. This is how it is with people who love God for the sake of outward wealth or inward comfort. They do not rightly love God when they love him for their own advantage." Our love for God must be unconditional, as his love for us is. Conversely, of course, those who've not cared for their neighbours, have not done acts of charity when the opportunity presented itself, are condemned by Jesus. When I was hungry, thirsty, a stranger, naked, sick, or in prison, you did nothing for me, he says. Likewise, like the righteous, they too are unaware of when all this took place. They can't think of any occasion when they saw Jesus in need and did nothing for him. But the same maxim applies. Just as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. But of course, we have to be a little wary here, lest we fall into the trap of thinking that it's our good deeds that get us into heaven, into eternal life, rather than the death, the resurrection, and the ascension of Jesus. This nation is full of people who believe it's the quality of their lives that will win for them a place in heaven, and have no concept at all of the part Jesus plays. I've said on many occasions, of all the hundreds of funerals I've done in my ministry, I never buried a sinner. Everyone was good. I went to my own mother's funeral. I thought we were burying the Archangel Gabriel, not the woman I knew. But the key to this parable is not to deny justification by faith alone, as the great reformer Martin Luther called it, but that the charitable acts of the faithful are evidence of the justification, not a means to it. They're a response. In other words, our salvation is already assured. It's assured to us through Jesus, and our lives are simply a response to that fact. Our deeds cannot win us any more than we've already got, because there's no more to win. We already have eternal life through Jesus, so what more can we expect? That's the cornerstone of the Christian faith, and we do well to ponder it and think about it again today. And I want to end with a definition of heaven and hell, which I came across, which has a lovely European thing to it. Heaven and hell, the difference. Heaven is a place where the police are English, the chefs are Greek, the car mechanics are German, the lovers are French, and it's all organised by the Swiss. Hell is a place where the police are German, the chefs are English, the car mechanics are French, and the lovers are Swiss, and it's all organised by the Greeks.